Namaste. Continuing our discussion on creating a brand, today we will go into selecting a name for creating a brand and issues involved there. And to discuss the same, we have with us management consultant, Mr. Himanshu Vaidya. Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
We start off with why is naming such an important part of brand creation process?
The name of a product helps the producer distinguish his product from products of other producers. Name also helps a customer distinguish products of one producer from that of the other producers. When a customer goes to buy a product, he utters the name to the retailer to buy the product. If you look at the brand management process, all the associations which are created by advertisement, public relations, events, retail experience, product experience, all these associations center and converge around the name. So the name becomes the container of all the associations that constitute a brand. The name also is something that you remember the first. If I ask you to remember the brand called Infosys, you will remember the name Infosys. You may not remember the tagline. You may not remember what was the plot of the advertisement. You may not remember the color of the logo. You may not even remember the logo per se, but you will remember the name. So the first thing the consumer remembers about a brand is the name. Also, name is something which helps you file for intellectual property, because brand is a form of property, and when you file for intellectual property, so that you own up this property that you are creating, you use the name to file for intellectual property under the trademark act. Lastly, if you uh, ask any advertising agency that in the process of creating a new brand, what is the most difficult thing to do? They will tell you one of the most difficult things to do in the whole campaign is to select a new name. Because name is not just something that you can just get in your mind and create a brand out of. You have to select a name while being aware of a list of criteria which are necessary to be observed for selecting a good brand name. So it is not easy to select a good brand name. A brand name can be either uh, a word in your language or a word in some other language spoken somewhere else, or it can just be a sound. And when to use what and how to use it is not an easy decision to make. And therefore, naming is not only critical, but it's also one of the most difficult things in the brand campaign to do. And unfortunately, most people don't even realize the complexity and gravity of selecting a brand name.
Right. So then what are the issues involved in selecting a name for a brand?
There are about 7 criteria which we have to keep in mind for selecting a good brand name.
Yes.
So I was saying there are about 7 criteria for selecting a good brand name. First, the name should be easily memorable. It should be easy to remember. For example, if you look at Naukri.com, it's a very easy to remember brand name. Right? If you look at, uh, for example, Monk, Monk is a very easy to remember brand name. But if you look at Hermenegildo Zegna, it's a very difficult brand name to recollect.
Right.
The first is it should be easy to remember. Second, it should not have any obscene meaning. Because often it happens that in case of multinational brands, if there is a brand in India which is in any local language, and you take it to say Africa, and in that language it may have a bad word meaning. And this has happened many times in the history of brand management, that innocent looking brand actually is a bad word in some other language. Okay. And it happened with one of the Skoda cars, that Skoda launched one of the cars, right, with a particular brand name, and that brand name in India, particularly in West Bengal, is a bad word. So the second is, there should not be any obscene meaning to that word in any market that you want to enter. Third is, it should not be taken already by somebody. It has to be available legally. It's already taken by somebody, you cannot have it. So it should be away from an existing brand name by what is called the material difference. It has to be radically different, materially different from an existing brand name. Fourth, it should have a positive connotation. People should feel something good, something joyful, something intriguing, something mystical, something classy, something invoking, something inviting, involving, challenging, to take interest, make it interesting. So it should be a good interest evoking, positive feeling evoking brand name. It should create a lot of associations. The more association the brand name creates, the more meanings the brand name creates by its own, less cost and time you have to incur in endowing that name with associations. For example, if you create a brand called Naukri.com in India, Naukri literally means a job. And if you create a employment portal, right, you don't have to explain the word Naukri or job to Indians. But if you create a monster.com for the same purpose, right, you have to explain to people that monster.com, it looks such an odd name, but it is a job portal. So a lot of money and time goes into explaining people what monster.com is all about. So just to make people understand that it is a job portal, that itself will take about 2 to 3 months and millions of rupees in investment. So the word should be such that it easily explains. One more thing, the word should be capable of future extension. That tomorrow, if you want to extend the brand and sell new products under the brand, the word should have extension capability. Like Naukri.com does not have extension capability. It's a very good brand name from one point of view, that it is easy to understand, evokes a lot of associations, very generic to that area. But the drawback is the extension capability is not there. So when the same company has to open a similar portal for uh, rentals, office space, the property business, right? It has to create a new brand name called 99 acres, because the existing brand name does not have potential of extension. Second, the brand name should be such that it is synchronous and gels well with other brands in the portfolio. So if you have 4 brands and you are going to create a fifth one, it should be gelling well with the other 4 so far as possible. Lastly, it should be legally available.
Yeah.
All these are criteria for creating a good brand. In earlier times, it was very easy. Two people, Mr. Larsen and Mr. Tubro, came together to create a company, and the company became Larsen and Tubro, L&T.
Hmm.
Mr. Tata created a company, it became Tata Steel.
Hmm.
Birla created a company, it became Birla Cement. It was very easy. The family names could be used as brand names. Any name that you like could be used as a brand name. That was an era of low competition. Today the competition is so high in every category that
Hmm.
that kind of a very relaxed, casual brand management approach does not work. And you have to go into a knowledge intensive way of selecting a brand name. And so, while selecting a brand name, we have to make use of all these criteria. And that is what makes selecting a new brand name one of the most difficult tasks in the campaign process.
Is a single word brand name more popular, or is it more beneficial, or just does it just sound good?
Sorry?
Is it fair to say that one brand name has to be a single word, or
Uh, it is not a rule that a single word is better, but in practice, this is actually so. For example, you can see many companies in the consultancy space which have two words like Sun and Bradstreet, Ernst and Young, Price Waterhouse Coopers, right? Where there are two words put together, Larsen and Toubro, right? Johnson and Johnson. Right? So you have Procter and Gamble. Right? So you have two words joined by an and. That also is a very popular format for creating brands. So it is not necessary to have one word, but usually these two-word brands are kept for corporate brand purposes. Whereas for product brand purposes, usually one word is used. And similarly, if you look at corporate brands also, one word is used for majority of corporate brands. Only in a few cases, like accountancy firms, legal firms, consultancy firms, the corporate brand is of two words, usually joined by an and. So there, in general, one word brand is more common both in the level of corporate brand and product brand. But in cases of these three areas particularly, in the consultancy, research, academic space, the two word brands also are very popular.
sir, I remember, just now you mentioned, even mentioned the name should be legally available. So, are there any legal issues involved in selecting a brand other than the availability?
Yes, yes. There are five legal issues we have to take care of from a legal point of view before selecting a brand. First, the brand has to be legally available, meaning the brand should not be already registered by somebody else. Two, the brand that you select, the name that you select has to be materially different from the name that exists. Okay? So if, for example, there is a brand name called Samsung, I cannot change the first S to an H and say I will create a new brand called Samsung, because Samsung, which is existing brand name, and Samsung, they are not materially different from each other. There is a very nearness to each other, and Samsung can go to the court and say Samsung is actually a copy. They are trying to pass off their goods as our goods. Okay? So first, the name should not be registered by somebody. Two, the name should be materially different from existing name. Three, the name cannot be the same as a well-known brand. There is a concept of well-known brand. That brands which are very popular, LG, Samsung, Tata, Apple, even if Apple is not present in any particular African country, nobody can create and sell Apple cell phones. Or in India, suppose Amul is the name that Amul has registered for milk products. I cannot start selling Amul biscuits or Amul, say, shirts or Amul trousers. Because even if they don't register in all the categories, they are well-known brands. So the third is it should not be near to a well-known brand. Fourth, you cannot claim something generic like a number, say number 2, number 5, number 10, or alphabet A, alphabet B, right? You cannot claim that as brands. They are generic to human usage. Then you cannot claim any great historical figure. Like you cannot sell Mahatma Gandhi burgers or Morarji Desai whiskey, right? Because these are historical figures. You cannot claim them as your brands. Religious figures you cannot claim as brands. And very importantly, you cannot claim something generic to the category as a brand name. For example, suppose you are in the area of fashion, you cannot have a brand name called shirt, because shirt is a product which is generic to that area. Everyone is selling shirt. You cannot have a brand name called shirt. Similarly, if you are selling vitamin tablets, you cannot have a name called iron, because iron is something inside the body which is in the medicine. Every medicine has iron, right? If you are selling say paint, oil paint, you cannot claim a brand name called yellow or pink, because these are generic colors. So things which are generic to a particular sector, they cannot be taken as names, right? So, and there should not be a name which is pre-existing in any other market, right? Or in your own market.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the legal constraints where, and this is a very big problem, because often advertising agencies get very creative names, but they are not available legally. Right? So it is not just creativity, it's also the legal aspect, the business aspect, the spending aspect, the return on investment aspect, the brand extension aspect. All these aspects are important. So we
Hmm.
have to be sure that the brand name that we want to take, right, is legally available.
So going generic, you mean, is not a good strategy in selecting a name?
Uh, for very few companies, this has proved to be good. For most companies, this has not proved to be good. So on the whole, I would say going generic is not a good strategy. Making
Okay.
allowance for exception, that some companies have indeed benefited by going generic, but as a rule, it is not good to go generic. Let us take some examples. Suppose you are in the diabetic segment of offering sugar-free tablets, and Cadila had created a name called sugar-free. Now, when you are launching the category, when there is nobody in the market, it's very easy to market your name called sugar-free, and it's very easy for people to remember. So initially, you get the advantage of going generic. In very low cost and very low time, people identify you in the market, and they know what the product is. But when there are 15 brands in the market, all are selling sugar free, then you don't stand out of that clutter, because you don't stand for anything, right? And therefore, when somebody else comes up with a new name, let us say banyan sugar free, or say eucalyptus sugar free, right? Or say boutique sugar free, right? Or say green leaf sugar free. Then green leaf sugar free versus sugar free, the green leaf sugar free looks better, right? Nature land sugar free. So the nature land sugar free, because we all know that they are selling sugar free. Everyone is selling sugar free. So when the market is crowded, it is difficult for a generic name to differentiate itself and stand out from others, because there is no way you cannot stand out from others. It's a compulsion. And it becomes more and more difficult to stand out from others if the name is so generic. There is a twist to this logic. So yeah, so in general, it is good not to be generic. Now let us go to the twist of the concept. It is good not to be generic and be generic. Now what does it mean? For example, if you look at Xerox, Xerox is into photocopying, but the brand is so popular that photocopying has become synonymous with Xerox. So people will go to Canon and say, "Give me a Xerox machine from Canon brand name." Right? Or in India, Bisleri has become generic to the bottled water, mineral water. So people will go and say, "Give me Bisleri of Kinley." Now that is good, that you are not generic by name, but you become generic to the category because you are so popular and so dominant for a long period of time. So that is the ideal, that you are not generic by name, and yet by dominance you become generic to the category, because then you have to invest the minimum amount of time to maintain your awareness and preference and trust.
Is it possible for us to discuss some good and not so good naming cases, brand naming cases?
uh, Yes, and before that, let me go into how the brands are created, and then I can take up the good and not good naming cases, because the good and not good are outcomes of good naming or not good naming. So, if we look at the way brand names are created, there are three ways in which brand names are created. One, by convenience. Second, creativity. And third, strategical thinking. Convenience is very simple. You just use family name, Larsen and Toubro, Tata, right? Ogilvy and Mathar. Two people come together and you form a Johnson and Johnson. Right? So this is one way of convenience. Now that is not a very good way of creating a brand. It used to work in earlier times, does not work today so much in an intensely competitive era, because this family names and these names of convenience, you can name it on somebody you like. Say, for example, Dhirubhai might like his brother's son Vimal, and therefore create a brand name called Vimal in the textile segment. Now, those times are gone when you could just use your surname, family name, or name of somebody that you like, or the name of the city that you are as a brand name. Right? This is naming by convenience. Second is naming by creativity. You creatively think about something, right? And just name it. For example, Naukri.com, very good creative name, but no scope for expansion. Never thought of brand extension or brand portfolio in future. And third is you think strategically. You take into consideration consumer behavior. You take into consideration how self-expressive the name is, take into consideration the time, cost, and risk, take into consideration extension possibility, take into consideration portfolio mix, take into consideration legal aspects, and after all of that, you come to a name. That is a strategic way of finding a name, right? So the best is strategic, second best is the creative part, and the least best is the naming by convenience. And naming by convenience, I can give an example. We have in India a detergent called Ghadi. It has a that punchline. पहले इस्तेमाल करें फिर विश्वास करें. Ghadi means clock, and they are using Ghadi or clock as a brand name to sell detergent powder to wash utensils. Now, this is a name of convenience. Nobody knows what is the logic and what extension possibilities it has, or why they have created. It's just a name of convenience, not a very good name. So, This brings us to the real question, the three good names and not good names. Uh, if I have to list out three good brand names, I would say Monk. The Monk whiskey is a very good brand name. One, because there is nothing generic about it. Two, it brings out that contrast. On one hand, monk means somebody who would not touch whiskey, and you are naming whiskey as monk. And that makes it even more interesting and makes it very classy. Right? The opposition inherent in the name, the contradiction inherent in the name, between the name and the product, and the sound of the name itself, the meaning of the name itself makes it very classy. So Monk is one good brand name, non-generic but very good. Naukri is second good brand name, generic but still good. It's generic but still good. And Virgin is a very good brand name because it is very evocative. Once you hear the word virgin, because of the taboo associated with it, so many associations are created and it goes straight into memory. Once you see the advertisement, you won't forget it. So the very taboo nature of the name makes it a very good brand name. And because it is not generic to any product category, the extension potential is very large. Right? So these three are good names. If you look at not good names, right? You can look at the Tata's naming of the food products as Sampurna. Right? That's a very difficult kind of a. I mean, the name does not add anything except to be a identifier. And if a name is only an identifier, it's a poor name. The name must stand out, must have a sound ring to it, a good ring to it, good meaning to it, good associations to it. Okay? Put the product in a class of its own, must resonate with the segment it is trying to address, but must resonate with the real value offer the product is offering. So Sampurna is one such name. Then you have 99acres.com, which does not stand out, does not sound anything, was very positive, very dull and drab kind of name. And then you have sugar free, a very generic name, right? That when you have 10 people in the market, it becomes very difficult for you to stand out. And now there is no choice but to do very expensive and risky repositioning. So this can be, and you can have one more brand name which is not very good, Urbano Gildo Zegna. So difficult to remember in India. You can't even pronounce it rightly. Right? So these are the some of the examples of. Then you have one more from a legal point of view. Uh, there was a very popular brand called Pan Parag, and now somebody has launched Pan Pasand. Now, the moment Pan Parag takes it to court, there is no way this person is going to win the case. So whatever he invests in brand building is in perpetual risk of a court decision. So these are not so good brand names from various points of view.
So is brand ever renamed?
Yes,
Are there any?
yeah.
Yeah.
It happens occasionally. Uh, See, you have two choices. Let us say you have an existing brand X, okay? And you somehow feel that the way X is not satisfying to you. Either you want X to be extended or to be taken to a new product category or change the price range or to be repositioned psychologically, something needs to be done. Now you have two choices. Either you can launch a new brand Y or you can rename X or reposition X. Now, renaming is done when it is something more than repositioning. And renaming happens usually in two cases. One case is of merger and acquisition. That Hutch is taken over by Vodafone, so Hutch becomes Vodafone. Vodafone is taken over by Idea, so it becomes Vodafone Idea, and slowly it will become only Idea. So this is how the renaming happens. That instead of launching a new brand, you have to rename an existing brand. That is one. Second, if you want to relaunch yourself completely in the market, in such times, you want the trust of the old brand, but you want to overcome the difficulties of the old brand. So instead of repositioning, you create a new name, possibly because the old brand did not have the potential of extension. It did have some equity, but no potential of extension, and the extension is very important to you. So you want a new brand which carries the trust of the old brand, familiarity of the old brand, equity of the old brand, but has a new ring to it and has extension possibilities. So then you say, we were X, but now we are reinventing ourselves organizationally and also in terms of the brand. And you will see a very different and better service from us. And this is the new brand. X now becomes Y. So these are the cases where renaming is done instead of launching a new brand or instead of just repositioning a new brand, existing brand. Hello.
So are there companies which are present in the market and who have bad names?
Yes, many of them. Uh, I can think of Tata as a very good example where they are not very good with the branding part of it. I believe they are one of the lowest return on investment getting companies when it comes to brand spend. And I think much of it has to do with possibly too many engineers in the group making decisions on brand management. That in terms of brand management, it's one of the companies, the group, where there is very good potential, but they have not even realized half of the potential. And similarly, there are many other companies also uh, where they don't manage their brands well. You can take examples of the Korean and Japanese companies. They are not very good brand managers. They are very good uh, product quality producers. They are very good in product quality. They are very good in service, but they are not so good in brand management. Whereas Americans are very good in brand management. So there seems to be something cultural to it, and there's also something to do with the the owning family of the business, their culture. That some companies are very good in brand management, some companies are not so good in brand management, and Indian companies, most of which are professional, sorry, most of which are family owned, typically are not very good in brand management, except a very few. I would say Parachute is a very good company. Fevicol is a very good company. Rasna is a very good company. But except for these few Indian companies, most Indian companies don't know how to really manage a brand well.
Sir, do you think good naming have some country cultural element to it?
Yes, very much so. I think there is the country cultural element apart from the owning family uh, culture. If you look at the whole advertising area, I think Americans are intrinsically, culturally very good about it. They know how to brand it. Uh, for example, even take their defense products. Their missiles are called Hellfire missiles. Their say Israeli drones are called Predator drones. Right? One of the planes is called Raptor, named after one of the flying dinosaurs. So, I mean, the missile would still do the same work, even if they don't give it a good brand name. And they are not going to sell missile in the open market. It's a government to government sale. But still, they have it in them that they will always find a good, tangy, well-sounding brand name. They could even give it a technical name, say MK2, MK3, but they won't do it. They will find a good brand name creatively and give it to it. There's something cultural about it. That they like the very sound of it, the very aesthetics of it, right? And they want to endow everything with a good name, good meaning, good sound, good color, package everything well. And even if it's not necessary, they would still do it. And that cultural element serves them very well in the consumer marketing area. And even in industrial marketing area, if you see Intel, although such an intensely industrial product, they are actually stronger than many of the consumer brands. And much of it has to do for the fact that it comes from USA, the culture where creating a good name, creating a good brand is very, very important. The whole psychological packaging of the product is very important. And if you look at Japanese and Korean cultures, it is not very important. They generally sell on the basis of product quality, price, after sales service, the objective part of the product. They are not very good in creating the intangible value part of the product.
Does does this have something to do with competition as well? Denser the competition, more tricky or more important it becomes for you to select.
Part of that is true, but part is not true. For example, today in a globalized world, all the American companies are also in Japan, they're also in Korea. In third country markets, where the Japanese companies are also present, American companies are also present, Korean companies are also present, everyone is present. And Toyota is face to face with General Motors. But if you look at the way, even though Toyota may be a leader better than Ford in actual sales, the brand management part of Ford is still better than Toyota. The naming part of Ford is still better than Toyota. So I think it is something intensely cultural, right?
Mhm.
Just as you have uh, the cultural roots of design, that there's something in Italy, something in France, something in Germany, which are very, very design-oriented countries.
Mhm.
Similarly, you have countries like USA, which is an intensely brand-oriented country. And I don't think we see anywhere in the world so much of brand orientation. And today, after years of American companies being in Japan, in Korea, Japanese and Korean companies being in USA, both of them being together in third countries like India uh, and Indonesia and Malaysia and so on, you still have the difference. The Japanese still don't do brand management as good as the Americans do, and Americans still don't do as good quality as Japanese do. Despite spending billions of dollars in consultancy, in knowing what the other does good and what we don't do good. So there have been billions of dollars spent on good practices, learning from the opponents, but still it is not possible. There are some cultural roots to that competence. And I think it is this diversity of culture which creates a diversity of competencies in this brand management area.
I never knew selecting a brand. So many things had to be kept in mind, and you have to. I mean, it's a process. It's a long and a lengthy and
Yes, yes.
meticulous process. Right. Well, we have discussed today an important aspect of brand creation, and which is brand name. In our upcoming videos, we will come up with many other such talks. Meanwhile, you do write to us at hveindia@gmail.com with your feedback and your suggestions. Keep watching, and thank you, sir. Namaste.
Namaste.